Hello, and welcome to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. I'm your host, Tori Rerick, PharmD and holistic healer. Each episode features a candid conversation about how connecting with the cannabis plant has enhanced an individual's wellness journey. Here to honor the plant, talk about healing, and have fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Tonight, I'm speaking with Brandie of Cannavybe. She is a healthcare project manager, wellness blogger, and CBD advocate. After experiencing the benefits of CBD firsthand, she was inspired to create Cannavybe, which is a space for other canna-curious women to discuss their favorite wellness practices, open up about their anxieties, and normalize their cannabis use. So, did I miss anything?
No, thank you for that intro, Tori, and thank you for having me.
Of course. So I can't even remember how we've crossed paths, but I'm so glad we did.
I feel like it was on Instagram.
That's where the cool people hang out. Definitely follow. I'm curious to know though, you seem very comfortable with the CBD world. I mean, you've been experimenting since 2017, but I'm wondering what's your history with cannabis?
So, would you like to know my first experience with it?
Yes.
Okay. Great. I've been waiting for that question. So, I actually, the first time I smoked pot was in college with a couple of my girlfriends. I went to a very small liberal arts school in Arkansas, and they had both smoked pot before, and this was my first time, and it was in the back of somebody's car in the library parking lot.
Ooh.
And we smoked out of punched a hole in a Coke can.
Okay, I thought you were going to say apple.
Apple probably would have been a little bit tastier.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't recommend that method.
Totally.
But yeah, so the first time I smoked, I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And then within a few minutes, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. I felt super relaxed. I felt giggly. I don't think I'd ever giggled before in my life. I'm just not a very giggly person.
Sure.
And I told my friend, I think I have pink sparkly blood.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's how I feel. So that's kind of one of my favorite memories is pink sparkly blood.
So up until that point, were you not cool, don't have it around me, or that's cool that people do that, I just haven't found the opportunity?
Yeah, I don't think I'd really been exposed. I was busy in high school. I took honors classes, and I worked at one point, I worked 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always just go.
Mm-hmm. So this was maybe a good introduction for you to relax. So then at that point, were you this could be part of my routine? Or you were that was a fun, euphoric situation? Because I know the first time I smoked, it wasn't until years later I realized the medicinal benefits.
I think for me, it was oh, that was fun, but I wasn't I want to do this all the time. I wasn't really called to I've never bought pot in my life.
Yeah.
And so it was just if if we were out and somebody had some, we'd smoke, but it wasn't a thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably for 2 years I would smoke on and off. And then at one point it was kind of a switch was flipped, because all of a sudden whenever I smoked, I started to have panic attacks. And
yeah, I want to hear about that.
Yeah. So another funny story. One of my really good friends at the time, we worked together over the summer, and we would go to our job together, and then we would come home and we would smoke pot, and we would watch Harry Potter and just zone out. Mm-hmm. And which was amazing, by the way, until you start freaking out.
Simpler times.
Right. It was so fun. Yeah, I just started panicking. I was like, you have to take me to the hospital. And he was like, your dad will kill me. I was like, I'm dying right now. I can feel it. So
yeah, I'd love to digest that.
In what way?
Just like a PSA to the listeners. If this intoxication, this overdose, if you will, happens to you, the best thing to do for someone is to reassure them they will not die.
Yeah, absolutely. He did like kind of talk me off the ledge, and he was like, I think maybe you should just take a nap. And I was like, okay. And of course I woke up the next day, so everything was fine. And at first I thought maybe it was just like a reaction to whatever was in that weed, because God knows where it came from, right? Or how it was grown, how it was treated. But no, subsequently, every time I tried to smoke pot afterwards, I had a panic attack.
Different strains and all of that. Interesting.
I know.
So that brings us to Cannavybe, really, because you're focused on CBD. One, because it's hot, it's cool.
Right.
But also just for you personally, that's what you use.
So I had a friend probably about 2.5 years ago now say that one of the ways that they were relaxing after work was by using CBD. And I was like, what's that? And they were like, not informed. They're like, well, it's not pot, but kind of. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, where'd you get it? And they said they bought it at one of the head shops in town. And I was like, okay, awesome. And I drove over there. Because I'm always open to like try new things, and I'm kind of new agey and very like wellness focused.
Yeah. And
of course, like the CBD was like behind the counter. So I had to ask somebody like, do you have CBD? Like, do you have that stuff? And so I bought gummies because edibles are just easy, right? And I didn't know anything. I got home, I ate I think it was like, I don't know, a pack of 2 or a pack of 3. And I ate them and I was like, okay.
So were you concerned knowing that it was, a constituent of the cannabis plant and your reaction to THC at that point?
I think at that time I didn't care.
Okay.
I was just like, let's see, because I tend to be kind of like very type A and very like tense and stressed. And I was like, I'll take whatever. I'll do whatever I have to do to just like learn how to relax.
Totally.
And so I tried the gummies, and like I said, I just was like, oh, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. And then I bought some on Amazon of all places, because 2.5 years ago, like CBD was not as big of a thing as it is today, of course. And so I tried that tincture, and kind of the same reaction for me. I was like, this isn't doing anything. I'm not feeling anything. And at the time, I don't think I realized what to expect.
Right.
I hadn't done enough like personal research. So I kind of just gave it a break for a couple of months until I ran across an article that there was going to be a CBD shop opening in Austin.
Great.
And they were talking about, that's, locally grown hemp and how they treat their plants. And I was like, okay, well, let's give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen?
This is good.
Yeah. So I went and I got a little bottle, and they also had like CBD coffee. So I tried that too, because I love coffee. And that's when it really kind of like kicked in for me. And I started doing more research and trying more things and buying all the products. And my boyfriend kept making fun of me. He was like, well, I saw on the way home today that there's this new CBD shop opening. So you might want to
pop on over.
Yeah. And then it just clicked for me one day. I was like, man, there's not like a resource online for CBD, or like what products to try, or like what things to look for when buying CBD, any of that. And I was like, man, I can do that.
Totally. So what were the benefits that you were experiencing that kept you coming back? Because that is something we hear from customers and clients, and mom just, well, how will I know what to expect? And some people feel different and some people don't.
Right. I think I get this question a lot too. People are like, well, I tried CBD and I didn't feel anything. And the number one thing that I tell people is that you shouldn't expect to feel something. It's not the same as THC. And I think when people have had a history of using THC in the past, that's kind of what they're expecting. They're like, I know it, you're saying I'm not going to get high, but like,
can I add a little something?
Yeah, they're like something. And so I try to explain to them that using CBD is kind of the same as like when you take an Advil for a headache, right? You have a headache, you take the Advil, you don't feel the Advil, right? You're not like, oh,
Mhm.
it's working. It's in my bloodstream now.
Mhm.
It's either it worked and your headache went away or it didn't.
Totally.
And CBD is kind of the same. So if you're using it like topically, let's say, because you have knee pain, you're not going to feel the CBD, but you're going to
Mhm.
feel whether or not it worked and did your pain reduce or go away completely.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. And then
Great.
for me, I use it, I mean, I think the reason that a lot of people think that CBD is some kind of like miracle drug or snake oil is that it can be used in so many different ways.
Yes.
So like I use it, if I microdose, I can use it in the morning and put it in my coffee and it helps me like stay focused and alert. But at
Mhm.
night, if I take a higher dosage, then I start to chill out and I relax and it helps me to like turn off that monkey brain, go to
Yes.
bed.
Yeah, these biphasic results that you can get
Yeah,
from CBD
absolutely.
cannabis. Yeah.
Or someone like me, like I tend to have a bit of social anxiety, like one-on-one or in a group of people that I know, I'm totally fine.
Mhm.
But if you put me in a social situation with like 20 people that I don't know, I
Mhm.
start to kind of freak out and have that like fight or flight response.
For
And
sure.
taking the CBD helps me to be like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes.
Right.
It's going to be okay.
And just what you were explaining about like the knee pain going away, that's where it can be a little bit tricky. Like a lot of people are taking this to support their anxiety. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really know if you're having a good day because of the CBD or if like you're just having a good day, but if you can support that in some way, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And especially the microdosing aspect. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you might not be able to tell per se.
Right. Or like feel it physically.
Yeah, yes. And so keeping a journal is something that I like to recommend. Is that something that you've done? I mean, your blog
Absolutely.
is basically that.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, especially for people that are new or maybe they're transitioning from, tinctures to topical, is to kind of keep track of like, what product did you use and what potency was it and what dose,
Hmm.
how often are you using it? Like, you can't just try it one or two times and say, like, well, it didn't work.
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, did you give it a chance?
Yes, exactly. And that's just something else that's sort of tricky about CBD is the trial and error. And
Yes.
we're not typically used to that as a society. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times on this podcast, but
Hmm.
it's a little bit intuitive and feeling into yourself, which is
Hmm.
all part of the magic of the cannabis plant.
Right.
With starting Cannavybe, a great resource. Thank you for doing
Thank
that.
you.
And so I guess you're in the healthcare industry, which I love talking to you, people like you who are in the traditional medicinal field and really see the value of this plant. That being said, there are some hangups there. So were there fears with creating this blog?
Absolutely. I think we've talked before about how I actually started out as a CNA like you.
Yes.
And I've actually grown up with parents that have worked in the medical field pretty much my whole life. My dad and my stepmom are both perfusionists and
Oh,
they work in the operating room. And my mom is a wound care nurse. And
yes.
so I've been like in and out of the hospital, not because I was sick, but just because like that's where they
Good.
worked and I would go visit them or I would go sit in their office and work on papers. Um, and so I've worked personally in healthcare, like as a CNA, as a medical assistant. I've done surgery scheduling for several years. I'm now a project manager and I manage a team within the hospital. But yeah, it's definitely a fear because most hospitals and most healthcare focused companies have a zero tolerance policy for
Hmm.
drug testing. And so when they're doing their random drug testing, right? They're just testing for the presence of THC and um, not the potency
Right.
within your system. And so, yeah, it's a concern of mine that at any time they could be like, Brandie, I think that Cannavybe girl is you. And I've been seeing you talk about cannabis. And I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people are uninformed and they don't understand that hemp is also cannabis.
Hmm.
And in Texas, where I live, anything with THC, or I'm sorry, above 0.3% THC is illegal.
Hmm.
So they could definitely say, like, we're going to drug test you. And
Hmm.
I would likely test positive based on the fact that I tend to use full spectrum products,
Hmm.
use daily, and I use probably a healthy dose every day.
Right.
So yeah, it's unfortunate because, you know, like I said, circling back to my parents, they're also kind of new agey like I am, and they would love to be able to use CBD, but it's a big fear of theirs that even if they were to use isolate, which oftentimes is 99.9%, right, THC free,
Right. Not
there's that
guaranteed.
small chance, like if that's your livelihood,
Yes.
you don't want to like, and you're still not sure that CBD will even work for you, right?
Hmm.
Why take the chance?
Yeah, I see that a lot when I'm working
Mm-hmm.
at the store, and it's so unfortunate to sort of
Yeah.
not turn people away, but you can see that they're struggling with this decision to support their pain or their anxiety, whatever it is, something that's
Mm-hmm.
very real to them, and then having to walk away and say, like, it's not worth it at this time, when it could
Yeah.
be so helpful.
I know it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Along those lines, it's interesting. I wanted to share with you. I met with an owner of a CBD brand here in Texas, and we met for coffee and we were chatting about this specific issue. And she has been taking her own oil and then going and getting drug tested.
Oh,
And yeah, so I was like, oh, that's fascinating. So she'll go get drug tested and see like, hey, if I've been taking it at this dose for 5 days, like, did I test
yes.
positive? And she was like, man, I have been. Like
Wow.
every time I go in, I test positive. And again, it's because they're just testing for the presence of, right?
Right.
She has friends and family that she will turn away from her product and say, like, you need to go find something else because I don't want you to get in trouble and your
Yes.
job over this. And I'm like, oh, that's so crazy.
And I've been meaning to just talk about this a little bit more. It's two-sided, you know, whoever you're
Mhm.
purchasing the CBD from, yes, it's our responsibility to educate you as much as possible. I really see myself in the pharmacist role at Moon Mother, even though like technically I can't be, but that those counseling points, that
Right,
education is
right.
so important.
Mhm.
But it also is up to the consumer. Like this is something you're putting in your body, which is like really interesting, kind of rewinding in your story, like, oh, what's in it, where'd you get it, I'm gonna try it. We do that a lot. If a friend says,
Mhm.
try this, I like it, we really
Mhm.
don't question it, but it's something you're putting into your body. And so you
Right.
too have this responsibility to understand
Mhm.
um, that you could test hot.
Yeah. Well, and it's also just like as a consumer and as, you know, just as a person, you need to be actively involved in your own healthcare and your own wellness. And so
Right.
you need to be able to go out and research and learn things and not do what I did, which is like, oh, okay, cool, try that. I'll be the guinea pig, no problem.
Right. Totally. Yeah. No, no
Yes, great
shade.
things. But yeah, definitely educate yourself.
Totally. Yeah, two-sided. And I just like that we're having this conversation, but my mind is kind of spinning. How do we start having these conversations at work? That's scary as
Mhm.
hell. You don't
So
want to be outing yourself.
it's funny you say that because there's like whispers of, you know, some people I know at work do use CBD. I've even brought my boss CBD for her birthday. I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
here's this little bottle I got for you. Stressed. One of my coworkers had like some arthritis in his foot, and so I brought him some like salve that I had.
Wow.
And it's just like it's tenuous, right? So it's like, can I talk to them about it without them,
Yes.
like raising a red flag?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then some people are just like, you know, I had like a headache roll on that I use, and I was putting it on one day, and someone was like, "Isn't that like pot?" And I was like, "It's not though."
Let's have a
But I could tell
conversation,
that they weren't
Susie.
ready for that conversation. So I was just like,
Right.
no.
It's interesting how the conversation will be shifting. We're still kind of in that limbo phase. At least some people are talking about it. You're talking about it. The internet's
Yeah.
talking about it. Um, I know when I was talking to Donna a couple episodes ago, it's like if you're in the healthcare field and if you don't know anything about it, you're already behind. It's just a
Absolutely.
conversation that we're going to be having. But really protecting the healthcare workers is an interesting topic.
It is, yeah, because I mean, man, talk about stressed,
Yes. Yeah.
exhausted, overwhelmed, overworked. I see it.
Hmm.
I see it all day, every day. I work in the
Totally.
OR.
Yes. What are your favorite products? So this is a loaded question because you have a whole guide
Oh,
on and a whole blog on what you recommend. But like
yeah.
day to day, what do you reach for?
So something that I carry with me all the time is Sagely Naturals has like a headache roll-on. It
Okay.
has CBD in it, but it also has essential oils like lavender and peppermint, which I
Mm-hmm.
find to be amazing for me when I'm having a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my definite go-tos. I also really love Moon Mother Hemp, of course.
Yeah, shout
I
out.
took her face serum with me and my roommate. We went to New York back in May, and my roommate was having like this weird, not really breakout, but just like her skin was just like so dry and very unhappy. And I was like, here, this
Mm-hmm.
has jojoba oil in it and you need
Yeah,
it.
girlfriend, hook it
Yeah. And
up.
so it was fantastic because I don't know about you, but whenever I travel, my skin tends to start freaking out. And it was
Totally.
like gentle enough to soothe my skin into like this state of, you need to calm the F down.
Great formulation, especially living in
Yes,
Colorado, like
absolutely.
lather.
Yes. And then Fine Healing Goods is also I'm a big fan of hers. Rachel is the founder and she's local here to Austin. So I love her.
So do you prefer to take your CBD just like as a straight supplement or infused into different products?
I think on a daily basis, I'm probably taking CBD in a couple of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely use a tincture, but I tend to save that for nighttime so that I can take a higher dosage and kind of like drift
Mm-hmm.
off to sleep. Um, it's great if that is maybe it's like a CBD melatonin supplement. I
Mm-hmm.
find that to be really helpful. Um, but I use pretty much anything. Like if it's a lip balm, if it's a lotion, if I'm having like neck and shoulder pain from staring at the computer all day, then I definitely will put some kind of balm on. I don't discriminate.
That's what I really value about your website. Well, first of all, Cannavibe is like the branding is mellow. I feel like I'm using CBD when I'm just viewing what you have going on.
uh,
But I love how thorough you are. You've tried so many things and you're giving your honest opinion. And the guide that you recently put out, it's a PDF that's downloadable, everyone.
mhm.
It's all about upgrading your wellness routine. So, yes, you're new age. You like um, self-care, self-love, and reducing anxiety. And then you've put out this guide to add CBD to the different areas of your wellness routine. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wanted CBD to be approachable. And I think some people are like, I don't want to take a tincture, especially if it's going to have some people are very sensitive to like
The taste.
off tastes,
Yeah.
right? They're like, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do edibles. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. Um, but surely you have some sort of wellness related routine, whether that's like exercise or you like to have like self-care Sundays and put the mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted it to be something that was easy for them to start incorporating. So if you have like muscle pain after you're working out for 3 hours, like my boyfriend, then
Mm-hmm.
here's
Wow.
salve that
Can't relate.
I can't either. Here's some CBD balm or salve or lotion that you can rub in, and that will like reduce the inflammation and help your muscles to recover better so that you
Mm-hmm.
hit the gym for 4 hours tomorrow.
You've made this complete guide though. And what I love about it, okay, there's the different categories. We've got vitamins, we
Mm-hmm.
have like teas and coffees, as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, exercise, recovery, even yoga and meditation. So like all the athletes, um, massage and body work, that's like such an interesting topic. We had Jordan on, who's in
Mm-hmm.
that industry, beauty, skincare. So you've gone down all the categories, but what I love the most is you have your picks.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like you're a friend right off the bat. When you get to the Cannavybe site, it feels comfortable, and these are recommendations you can trust. You really have vetted the products.
Right. And that's kind of what I wanted it to be, is like I want you to feel like you're talking to your best friend or your sister or like even your mom, and you're like, hey, I heard about this CBD stuff. I think it might be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And just having that as a resource to see like, oh, has she tried this product? Like, what's your favorite, what's your favorite edible? I love it when I have friends who will message me on Facebook or Instagram. They're like, hey, so I've been wanting to try CBD. Where should I start? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
girl, I got you.
Totally. What's the wildest CBD product? Like gimmicky, where you're like, that's not legit. That can't be real. or effective?
I would say the one that I was most like, about is probably lube. And not
Oh,
because, I mean, obviously there are reasons why lube would work very well,
yeah.
but I was like, okay, we'll see. I have found it to be very effective.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's obviously can be very easily and highly absorbed
Mm-hmm.
based on the tissue, but it's also great for women that are going through menopause. It's great if you're having some sort of like relaxation issues, like I was having. I
Right.
specifically wanted to try it because I have like sexual trauma that I've been trying to work through. And it's been
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to relax, when I'm trying to be intimate with my boyfriend. So
Right.
I was a little hesitant to try the lube. I was like, I don't think it's going to work, but it's been fantastic.
Agreed. Second that. And yeah, even in taking that internally, it's all about that relaxation. You've posted the article about CBD as a potential anxiolytic.
hmm
Yeah, it's really about restoring your life, like coming back
hmm
to balance and enjoying your life.
hmm And like
Really.
learning, like I said, for me, it's a lot of this is like me learning how to relax and like what does that
Mm-hmm.
feel like for me? And when I'm not using CBD, like how do I know if I'm not within that state? I
Totally.
feel like it's just a tool to like really know yourself better.
Yeah, into that.
Yeah.
So also, you have not forgot the furry friends.
No, my God, they're my favorite.
Shout out to Benny.
Benny's my little baby.
So how has he responded to CBD?
CBD has been great for him because Benny he's my nervous Nelly. Is which is so funny because you guys, he's a pit bull. So everyone has these like preconceived
Oh,
notions that he's like big and mean and scary. And he is the most loving dog. He just wants to snuggle you to death, really.
for sure.
But he gets so scared whenever like it's thundering outside, or if like somebody in my apartment complex like slams the door. Uh,
Mm,
he just he can't cope. Fireworks too, especially.
yes.
So I have taken to giving him either treats or a tincture, and it has really helped him. Like it's not a cure-all, right?
Mm-hmm.
It helps him to kind of like relax and to just not worry. I mean, before he would literally shake like a little leaf and he would jump in my tub and just look at me with these big wide whale eyes. And I'm like, dude, it's okay. It's just the weather.
Yeah, how do you tell them, right?
Yeah, right.
Relax, dude.
Bark, bark, bark.
Yeah. Good
So,
for Benny.
yeah, it's been so great to see him just be able to kind of like ride the storm a little bit.
I'm curious to know what like the most common question you get is.
I would say the most common I get is probably, I get a couple of like the same ones over and over. It's how is it different from pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then will I get high?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's usually the same questions for everyone.
Yeah.
And then like where should I start?
Mm-hmm.
What should I look for?
Great. I feel like we've answered most of those.
Right?
Good on us. Cool. Well, your website is a resource in and of itself, and you do have a resource section, literally books, online articles. You have everything. You've thought of it all, but I'm wondering what your favorites are, maybe what's been most impactful for you, where you would direct people.
If I was talking about my favorites, I would say in terms of books, my favorite so far has probably been the Healing with CBD. It's written by a nurse, and so it's kind of something I think you and I can kind of align ourselves with really well, because she talks a lot about the science, but without being too sciencey, if that makes sense. And I really love that. For podcasts, of course, I love you.
Oh, thanks.
But I did also recently binge listen to Artemis Radio. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's with Dr. June Chin and Wendy Wynn. And Wendy is the owner of a CBD store in New York.
Okay.
And she has Dr. Chin on there, and they just kind of go over everything. And I really enjoyed that. Like, that's what I listened to this week. I like binged all the episodes. I mean, there was only like 7, but
I'm there.
yeah, I highly recommend that. You should give it a listen.
Very cool.
And then one of my favorite documentaries is Wildest, which you can watch on Hulu. There's like 3 seasons and several different episodes. Okay. And it kind of just looks at, I mean, it mostly is focused on weed, as the name would imply, right? But it also talks about like different social justice issues. You know, it has an episode on there about like moms, you know, or, you know, soon to be moms, women that are pregnant, and they're using THC while they're pregnant, and like, what does that do to them? What does that do to their babies? How is that viewed in medical society?
Yeah.
There's an episode of, you know, children that have epilepsy and how CBD is helping them, and how their moms are having to, you know, kind of, you know, make their own medicine at home and dose their children. Wow. How they deal with society and the way that people kind of like look at them and the way that they're treating their kids' conditions. So.
That's super interesting because, you know, here where I live and where I work, like this is I talk about cannabis every day, and it's just interesting to feel that I'm in that bubble and then go out of it and really realize how much work we still have left to do.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think in one of those episodes they talked about, it must have started like right after legalization in Colorado, and how people were leaving their homes, let's say in like Texas, and they were, you know, living in their RV and moving across state lines to Colorado so that they could get medicine for their children. And one of the things that was really heartbreaking was this family that said, you know, we can't go back home and visit our you know, my mom or my dad, and they're elderly, because if we cross state lines with our child and they have an episode that lands them in the hospital and they get blood work done and there's THC present, you know, we're going to go to jail.
That's so insane.
We could lose our kid. And I was just like, this is crazy.
Yeah. And
absolutely
real
crazy.
Life.
Yes.
What do you do? You're going to save your kid, but lots of consequences.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are my favorites.
Okay, that was a mini tailspin. Sorry about that. Weed a kit. Okay, got it. Keep doing the good work. I so appreciate you and everything you're doing. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Cannavybe, CANNAVYBE. And then on the web, you can find my blog. It's cannavybe.me.
And download that guide, peeps.
Yes, download the
guide.
A
3-minute read.
Absolutely. And I'm also in the process of putting together like just an easy worksheet for newbies, really, so that they can kind of like track their usage and see like what dose is working for me instead of just eyeballing it.
Yes, queen. Love it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. You can find more information about holistic healing and what I do by visiting ToriRerick.com. Find me on Instagram at YourGuideTori and connect with me through direct message anytime. Peace out.